the Democrats had an interesting strategy about the Koch brothers. They decided they were going to go on the offense. Now, I love that strategy. Number one, because when's the last time the Democrats went on the offense? Number two, I like it because, as I stated on the show at the time, you want to point out the people that are actually pulling the levers of power, the people that are actually in charge. They donate to politicians and then they control those politicians. The American people are sick of it. Every single poll shows that over and over again. Now, of course, the mainstream media in Washington did not agree with me. They thought it was a terrible strategy. Politico wrote a whole long article that I dissected here on the Young Turks about how this strategy was. Well, in fact, here, let me quote it to you. The risky strategy, they said, on which Democrats are hinging their midterm election hopes. It's a risky strategy. I mean, they went on and on. They said, oh, it's Harry Reid's wife's idea. She's obsessed with the Kochs. It's ridiculous. Come on. This is never going to work. In fact, they characterize it as, quote, increasingly desperate. Now, they weren't the only ones. Morning Joe was discussing this strategy, and they all had a good chuckle about whether it would work, and Scarborough had a definitive thought on that. Let's watch.
They want to turn the Koch brothers into Bane. This is all part of a bigger strategy to raise awareness of who the Koch brothers are, to see if they can somehow make their money, or at least make associating with them, a tiny bit problematic. We'll see if it works. I think it's a tough argument to make.
I understand the strategy. It's the stupidest strategy I've ever heard. If somebody thinks that a voter in Raleigh, North Carolina, that's out of work gives a damn about who's financing 30-second ads, they are too stupid to be in politics.
Interesting. Too stupid to be in politics. Put a pin in that. Let's come back to it. Now, I'm going to show you what has happened since. But before we do, let's be clear about who was on the record as saying that it was a good strategy. Let's watch.
The people who donate to Democrats care a lot about this. They do know the Koch brothers, and they know that they're buying our politicians, and that is a huge issue for them. In a recent poll, the dysfunction of our government, because of lobbyists, special interests, and people like the Koch brothers, ranked #1 as the most important issue. So these guys who think they know it all and they're insiders are like, oh, nobody cares about that, please, no. Ignore the Koch brothers. No, don't ignore them. And he says they're not very well known. Well, that's because you never ran ads against them. Well, they're going to get better known now.
All right, so let's find out who is more politically savvy on the issue, whether challenging the Koch brothers through ads would work or not. Well, it turns out now the Democrats have a lot of internal polling. They're done by groups, pollsters such as Anzalone Research, Benison Strategy Group, Hart Research, and data analytics firm Civis. What they've done is they're not theorizing. It's not their ideas. They're testing whether this has worked with focus groups, by polling, to see, and state by state, race by race. So let's look at what they found out. Well, they found out one of the important groups was people that are making under $100,000. For whatever reason, they've called them the super shifters, right? And these are people who are still worried about the economy. And they say that these guys, quote, believe that the system is rigged against them, and that there are powerful interests, the corporate fat cats, a phrase that came out of a focus group, who exercise undue influence over the political process. It looks like perhaps we're onto something. You see, it wasn't even the Democratic strategists who came up with the term fat cats. In a focus group of real Americans, they're like, man, we think the fat cats rule everything. And of course, the Washington people go, oh, that's ridiculous. But it's not ridiculous. It's absolutely true. The donors give the money. The politicians do exactly what the donors want them to do. They're right. There are fat cats. And these two guys are it. They're the kings of that class. Okay, the others might be nobility and the lords, but these guys rule the roost. So now Democrats decided to point that out, and it turns out it struck a chord. They explain further. One of the most intriguing findings in the polling is that the Koch brothers have emerged as a negative signifier for Republicans aligning with these powerful, self-serving corporate fat cats. What did we tell you? We told you if you say that these are the fat cats, because it's true, and you identify them with the Republican Party because that's true, people will get mad because they already know that those guys, and they didn't know who it was, they were faceless. They knew that somebody was making the decisions and that their votes didn't matter, and they were right about that. And so when you told them who it was, they're like, well, I don't like those guys. And if they're giving money to the Republicans, I don't like those guys. It's borne out by the polling. It's not just theories. They're seeing it on the ground. The commercials are moving people against the Republican Party. New York Times came out today saying, well, you know what? The Democrats might actually keep the Senate. And 538, Nate Silver saying, well, the odds have shifted. Democrats are doing better than expected. And this is Politico writing here about how they have figured out why. It's the attack against the Koch brothers, rightfully so. Now more from Chris Lehane, who wrote the memo for this guy named Tom Steyer, who is funding research into how to defeat these guys so that we can defeat climate change, okay? So he says, given these findings, various Democratic candidates and organizations are effectively deploying the Koch brothers as a symbol of Republicans being the party of the fat cats. And there it is in parentheses. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid knew exactly what he was doing when earlier this year he elevated the role of the Koch brothers. What was that Scarborough was saying about they're so stupid they shouldn't be involved in politics? Who's stupid again, Joe? Remind me. Now wait, before you decide that, let me give you the amazing fact of the day. Now, in all these different states, they're seeing how much damage this is doing to the Republican Party when you run the ads against the Koch brothers. The exact opposite of what conventional wisdom in Washington, Chuck Todd, Joe Scarborough, et cetera, had said, Politico had said earlier, right? But I'll give you one example to show you how stark it is. In Iowa, 71% of likely voters said they were less likely to support a candidate if he or she was being bankrolled by the Koch brothers. 71% in Iowa. What happened? I thought attacks against the Koch brothers, oh, that'll never work with a guy in the middle of the country. No way. Oh, what's that, Joe? What am I wiping out there? Oh, that smug look you had on your face. Turns out, as usual, you were wrong and we were right. What's this? Oh, yeah, there it is. What now, Joe? What now?